Hello my friend, my name is Andreas, although most people just call me Alex. I greatly appreciate the fact that you take a moment to watch this video, and indeed I value your time, and because I value your time I want to make sure that on average these videos are no longer than about 15 minutes each. That's also why I write out the content before, so that I can communicate it to you and make use of the notes that I have right here. From time to time you might hear the turning of the pages. Now, videos on this channel will be published about every 2 weeks, and of course if you subscribe you will be updated or alerted even immediately. Now, but why should you subscribe or just watch any of those videos? Well, this channel has a name, and that is Loving Truth. Over the years I've met some amazing people that had the courage to go on a quest to find something that's very expensive these days, and that is truth. Those people, they were willing to explore uncharted territory and to leave traditions, opinions, and also beliefs behind. Anything that proved to be a hindrance or even a major stumbling block was discarded in their unwavering pursuit of truth. Now, the answers those people received surprised them. The results they got, as shocking as they were, deeply moved them and led them to a level of happiness and joy previously unknown. Now, how about you, my friend? Are you such a person? Do you love truth, or do you prefer half-truth or even lies? Now, I know it sounds quite obvious that every person with a bit of common sense would choose truth over half-truth or even lies. And yet most people seem to be more interested in holding on to what they think is true, although they know it is not. Now, thank God, often it is as simple as this. People haven't really bothered too much about investigating matters personally and thoroughly, just because they don't realize how much is at stake. My friend, everything on this life and the time after this life depends on whether you find out the truth while there is still a chance. On this channel, we're going to embark on a discovery tour. And this discovery tour will completely and entirely transform your life. The truth that we're going to unearth will affect every single area of your life and renew and invigorate it. You cannot even begin to imagine how much the impact will be. How can I dare make such big words? In this world there are people such as car salesmen, politicians, religious gurus, philosophers, and so on. They all make big promises, even truth claims, but hardly ever, let's face it, deliver what they promise. That's why many people are weary of big promises. They've been disappointed too many times, and dare not trust anymore. Now, I was one of them. Even as a young man, I was already pretty disillusioned about what this life has to offer, and seriously considered suicide as the way out. I'm glad that it didn't come to that, because I would have missed the whole purpose of my creation and the future that is available to those that sincerely seek the truth. Over the years I've met people that once had, well, baggage we often call it. Emotional, financial, psychological, physical, you name it. And those people simply didn't know where to find answers. I mean, answers that add up even amidst the greatest storms of life. What I found was that those people at one point had an encounter with the living God that totally undid them and put them together in a brand new way. Such an encounter began as a mere singular experience, but eventually turned into a lifestyle that gave them this very thing, life, and life abundantly. Loving Truth, that is this channel, is dedicated to feeding truth to hungry people. If you're hungry, you will be blessed to stay on this channel, on which we do not promote ourselves or any religious program or denomination, but simply the truth. Now, I could take a moment and give you some credentials of myself, but I don't find that conducive to our pursuit of truth. So let the message speak for itself, and let me stay out of the way as much as possible. This, however, implies that my own conduct and character must be in line with the truth presented here. Too many times, the truth was thrown out because of what people saw in the messenger of that truth. And that thing that they saw in the messenger spoke a very different language. Now, I've always invited the people I teach to come to my house and to see for themselves if I live the kind of life that I talk about, if what I put out matches my own lifestyle. You can call this accountability. Apparently, there are limits to this when you go digital, like here on YouTube. You will, however, get sufficient opportunities to see more of the messenger also as I share memorable moments or illustrations to the truth on this and other channels. I cannot emphasize enough, though, that the truth we want to publish here must take center stage. Now, any truth we look at must pass 1, 2, 3 tests before it is accepted as true. So here are the 3 truth tests. Number 1, is this truth logically consistent? Now that means, is it free from contradictions? Number 2, is it empirically adequate? That means, does it fit reality insofar that what is said matches what we find in reality? And number 3, is it experientially relevant? That means, does it bear any practical significance to my life? Admittedly, these words are big, but at the same time they are necessary. Necessary so that we have a basis for determining what truth really is. By the way, in passing, Christian apologetic Ravi Zacharias greatly expands on the details of our truth filters. Quickly, you will see in future videos that finding truth is not really the problem. I'm going to make it as plain as I can, and we'll use these 3 filters to determine if what we look at is true or not. So, what is the real problem when we deal with truth? Well, the real problem with truth is that people would rather hold on to their false assumptions and brush truth aside. If it is inconvenient, people prefer to look the other way, even if truth stares blank in their faces. How about you? Are you really willing to go the extra mile? But then again, my friend, what is there to gain if we investigate truth? Are the costs worth the effort? In other words, what's in for me if I hunt for truth? Well, what kind of questions are we going to answer in our pursuit of truth? I think that can give you a flavor of why it is not only helpful but necessary, of vital importance to investigate truth. We will not deal with questions such as, what's the best car for me? But we're going to get conclusive answers to questions such as, is there a God? And if so, what or who is he? Is he even a he? And how does this information affect the way I live and relate to others? For example, in the way I love, I work, I handle money, and spend my free time, and many others, of course. Now, I've been through these questions many times in the last 20 years or so. The result of that process was that I became a wholehearted believer in Jesus by choice. Tradition or personal preferences were not the reason for my choice, but clear-cut answers I received. Those answers have, by all means, triggered my spiritual awakening. They have fed me intellectually, and also they have satisfied my heart to the fullest. One thing that really surprised me was that on that personal journey, I discovered that atheism and agnosticism are not sustainable in light of the evidence. To put it another way, if one honestly comes to the table of truth, the food on that table is so visible, tangible, and understandable that one cannot possibly say God does not exist, or I'm not sure if God exists. Such ideas cannot seriously be entertained. The evidence is overwhelming. Many of our viewers will be believers, even believers in Jesus. That is, however, only a starting point. What I found over the years is that the majority of believers don't really know what they believe, why they believe it, and what consequences such lack of knowledge and understanding has for their day-to-day lives and their existence after their time on earth is up. I've spent a great deal of time talking to so-called atheists, agnostics, as well as people from different religions, and couldn't imagine that they know so little about the very thing they profess to believe or not to believe. Is that a problem? Absolutely. Perhaps the following illustration can help drive home my point. Imagine a friend wants to sell you his car. You're told the car is fine and the price competitive. So you close that deal and walk away happily until you find out a little later that the car had a major accident before. The person who sold you the car obviously didn't tell you the truth. He lied to you. This lie can be expensive in terms of trying to get your money back, being aggravated over the whole thing, and ruining your friendship. Now, how much more would be at stake if that friend didn't tell you about the faulty brakes of the car he sold you? And you got a scenario where your very life depended on the functioning of those brakes. Of course, truth would matter in such situation. Now you can add 100 other possible situations where telling and even living the truth makes a world of a difference. For example, concerning the faithfulness of a husband or a wife he or she has for his or her spouse, or concerning honesty at work, or concerning uprightness towards your child. Nobody is happy when he is told a lie. And yet, we often want to move the issue of truth to the realm of philosophy, theology, and political debate, so that we don't have to deal with it. Now, truth matters in every aspect of your life and every decision you take. My friend, let me tell you that your very existence depends on truth. Do you realize that the answers of the to the so-called 4 questions revolve around truth? Why am I here? Where am I going? What is right and what is wrong? What is the meaning of life? You have heard of such questions, and we will unpack them. My friend, in this video I've outlined the utter importance of pursuing truth. I've also talked about a few challenges on the road. I've mentioned the kind of filters we use to determine if what we find is true or not. And I'd like to close with the following. You see, the goals of our pursuit of truth are these. First of all, understand what truth is. Number 2, act on it. Number 3, defend what you have learned. Defend that truth. And number 4, teach truth to others so that they can also be blessed. It's a journey for all of us. And I cordially invite you to take this journey with people who are like-minded. In the next video, you'll hear more about this wonderful pursuit of truth, and I'd also like to share what the other 2 channels are about. But for now, see you around.